Here we have one of our favorite editorial page, Investors Business Daily, not filled with a bunch of crackpots like the Wall Street Journal editorial page, not obsessed with amnesty, not mouthpieces for the Republican establishment of McConnell and Boehner. No. And so this editorial starts war on cops, and that's exactly what it is, but it's even more. It's war on local neighborhoods and communities. True to his word, Attorney General Eric Holder, did you even know this just took place? Has released new national anti-profiling guidelines directing law enforcement to ignore statistical evidence generated by his own Department of Justice. Holder said even if there were overall statistic evidence of differential rates of commission of certain offenses among individuals possessing particular characteristics, the affirmative use of such generalized notions by law enforcement officers in routine, spontaneous law enforcement activities is tantamount to stereotyping and therefore punishable, Holder warned in his 12-page guidelines. Very interesting. Even if Holder's acting dumb, what does he mean, even if? He's fully aware of the existence of the evidence because his department puts it out. It's highly relevant to proactive policing because it shows stark differences in criminal behavior between blacks and whites. I didn't say that. I didn't create that. That's what the editorial says, and they didn't just create it either. That's what the Justice Department says. In fact, recent Justice Department reports reveal that African Americans commit 53% of all murders and 10 times more violent crimes than whites. Young black men, more alarmingly, make up only 1% of the population, but commit a whopping 27% of the nation's murders. Why is it that Eric Holder doesn't live in Anacostia, Washington, D.C.? Why is that? Can somebody tell me, please? Why is it that Barack Obama and all the places he could have lived in Chicago lived in Hyde Park? Are they profiling? Yes, they are. Yes, they're profiling. Why is it that Barack Obama doesn't send his lovely daughters to the neighborhood school at the White House area? Because he's profiling, that's why. I dare say Holder's done the same thing. Most of this violent crime occurs in urban areas, but now under the new federal anti-profiling regime, law enforcement cannot target these high-crime areas if they're predominantly black or Latino, nor can they associate ethnic gangs with a certain ethnicity. So you have ethnic gangs like MS-13, and you can't profile them based on the fact that it's MS-13 from certain countries, one in particular, south of the border. So you have to be ignorant. Boy. So who does this hurt most? It mostly hurts minorities in minority communities. Eric Holder's not doing anybody any favors, but he doesn't care. For him, this is all theoretical. He's untouched by this. The federal guidelines are expected to heavily influence local law enforcement. Holder this week is also briefing local police chiefs on the policy changes. Where does he get the power to do this? Well, he just takes it. Where does he get the power to do this isn't even a relevant question for these guys. He hopes that once federal agencies implement these standards, they'll set an example for local law enforcement agencies to adopt as well. Well, good then. So, the Islamo-Nazi terrorists, I guess we're not going to profile certain groups with certain fundamentalist beliefs from certain parts of the world. Is that what the FBI is going to do now? What's the TSA going to do? Old women with blue hair with Swedish backgrounds? Is that it? This is insane. It's absolutely insane. There's more. Holder's also requiring federal agents to go through de-biasing training. De-biasing training. Something he's already mandated for several major city police departments. As part of consent orders, he's forced through discrimination investigations. The training, which tries to cleanse cops of unconscious bias, quote-unquote, has led to a phenomenon known as de-policing in high-crime areas. You see, ladies and gentlemen, why should cops risk their lives and risk their careers by going into the communities that are the most dangerous with the highest level of crimes if they're going to be investigated for whatever they do and accused of racism and profiling? Why not just hang out in the safe areas? Why not just hang out in the suburbs where those kinds of accusations won't be made? This is what's going to happen. Relatively poor people in relatively crime-ridden neighborhoods, particularly minorities, you're going to see crime go up. Holder says guidance is necessary to end racial profiling in the recent incidents. This was all in the mix before they left office. This was all planned. It's going to get worse. And I feel sorry, particularly for minorities in the inner city. You're going to bear the brunt of this, and it's not going to be pretty. For maintaining statistics about which race, who commits violent crimes. These statistics are from the Department of Justice, headed by our first black attorney general. I'm looking at this. 53% of all murders committed by African Americans, 10 times more violent than whites. Who would keep statistics like this, let alone publish them? Young black men make up only 1% of the population, commit a whopping 27% of the nation's murders. Sounds to me like Mr. Holder is a racist. Why is he putting out such provocative information? Why are they keeping statistics if the cops can't use these statistics? I probably shouldn't give them that idea, should I, ladies and gentlemen? And why is it that Eric Holder and his lovely wife, who I understand is an OBGYN, who does not accept Medicaid, but she's just profiling, why is it that they only live in certain communities? Isn't that a form of profiling too, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, it is. He went to Ivy League schools too. Isn't that profiling? Yes. He didn't go to any state school in the inner city. I believe he went to Columbia or whatever the hell he went to. Same with Obama. Only the best in our racist America. And they're going to put this profiling to an end once and for all, except in their own lives, except in their own professions. So his department's putting out this information, which is clearly racist. As a matter of fact, these statistics. Then they tell the local cops not to act on it. So the local cops, if I were a local cop, I wouldn't go into these communities because I don't want to be accused of stuff. And then what's going to happen in these communities? Well, the crime rate's going to skyrocket. So law-abiding, decent citizens in these communities are going to pay the price because Eric Holder is a left-wing ideologue, just like they're paying the price for Obama's economics because he's a left-wing ideologue. So there aren't good full-time jobs. They're barely part-time jobs. And then they open the borders, illegal immigrants come in, unskilled, low-skilled, many illiterate, subsidized. Many, not all, but too many. And many of them seeking jobs are going to be competing with people already in the inner cities. This is Obama's America. This is Holder's America. So we're going to have, what did they call it? Deprofiling. And they want to take the cops, federal law enforcement now, and in essence put them in re-education seminars. So now we're involved in social engineering, not law enforcement. And I don't care what this community or that community perceives the problem to be. I'm sorry, but there is not widespread racism in America. It's so preposterous to look at the man who's in the Oval Office, the man who's the Attorney General of the United States, and to suggest otherwise. Actually, that's not true. I take that back. If you look at the United States Senate, there's 2 black men in the United States Senate out of 100. One, a Democrat senator from New Jersey. The United States Senate is racist. The Democrat Party, the Democrat senators are racist. Notice not one of them has retired or resigned and said, look, I'm stepping down because there's just not enough diversity in the U.S. Senate. As I've said before, there's more diversity on the Ferguson police force than there is in the U.S. Senate. There's more diversity in the great state of Utah than there is in the U.S. Senate. How about that one, Mr. Producer? And it's true. Just saying. There's Obama. He's on BET Sunday. Bet. Well, the Black Entertainment Network. Let's hear what he said. Cut 7, go. You got cut 7?
A lot of jurisdictions all across the country. And if we can identify best practices, then for us to be able to say, you need to adopt these best practices, and if you don't, then perhaps some of the funding that's available around some things that law enforcement cares about become less available.
You see how he speaks? You see how it's just a quiet tone? No big deal. Very persuasive. Look, you got to stop what you're doing. We fund a lot of this stuff. We're going to cut off the funding if you don't use best practices. What are best practices? Actually, they're the worst practices. You know where the high crime areas are. You know essentially who's doing it. You look at your Justice Department statistics and you're told to ignore it. That's best practices according to Obama. So basically what they're doing is bringing their own racism into law enforcement. Go ahead.
Folks who were doing the right thing, and we're going to be investigating folks who were not doing the right thing.
Shut up. I'm sorry, and I say that with all due respect. I don't care if you're president of the United States or president of the local YMCA. I can't take it anymore. Then I got another clip. We're going to be investigating folks who are not doing the right thing. And he goes on and on. I mean, this is definitely a war on local law enforcement. And they want to indoctrinate local law enforcement. They want to tell them how they're going to do things from now on and what they're going to do from now on. Best practices. Now, the best practice is when you know which communities are crime-ridden to go in there and help protect the people in those communities. You know, the communities you won't live in, Barack. The communities you won't live in, Eric. You know what I mean. The communities you won't live in, Valerie and Michelle. Damn hypocrites. That's what you are.